Successful people learn how to make their mind work for them. I'm David Nagel, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast. About 12 years ago, I was doing a seminar in Vegas that I had created. It was called Experience the Reality of Success, or ERS, as we so lovely named it. And it was a very interesting seminar because I kind of conceived this out of a problem that I saw show up in a mastermind group that I had about a year before I actually started doing this. And the problem was basically this. There were really intelligent people that were in the mastermind, and they had tremendous potential. They all wanted to take their businesses to multi-seven-figure businesses. But the problem that they were all really having was they couldn't ask for what they wanted. And I don't mean they couldn't ask for anything. They couldn't ask equivalent to the value that they needed in order to take their businesses that big. They just couldn't seem to do it. So there was a major issue that they were actually dealing with psychologically. And I thought about this, and I thought, you know what, one of the things that's really interesting, and especially in my experience and other people that I knew, was that this will shift inside of a person psychologically, physiologically, if they will allow themselves to have the experience of doing a very specific exercise. So I'm conceiving of this event in my head, and I happened to be in Vegas, and I was taking a cab from one place to another, and I had a guy who was working with me and his fiance in the cab with me. And I was telling them, I think we were at lunch or something, and we were going to a meeting or something. And I was telling them about this new seminar that I was creating and that I wanted to do. And I said, but here's the foundation of the event. I'm going to do this teaching for about 3/4 of the day. And then somewhere before we would normally go on a dinner break or something towards the evening, what we're going to do is we're going to release everybody. So it's a 4-day event, 3 nights in a row. They're going to go out on the streets of Vegas, and they each have to manifest $1,000. And we take everything away from them. The only thing that they can go out there with is their ID. They can't have a phone. They can't have credit cards. They can't call home for the money. They can't get a wire transfer. They can't get it from another seminar attendee. They have to go out and they have to get this money from people that they don't know. And they're not allowed to create a little business in order to be able to do it either. And he looked at me and he laughed and he said, "Are you crazy? Nobody would give anybody, just give them money." And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "People do it all the time." And he's like, "No." He's like, he said, "You mean to tell me you could walk up to somebody and they would just hand you money?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he's like, "I don't believe it." And I turned to the cab driver and I said to the cab driver, I said, "Sir, what would it take for you to give me $20 and feel happy about the experience?" And he thought for a minute and he looked at me and he said, "I guess if you just asked me." I said, "Okay, would you give me $20? He said, "Sure." And he reached in his pocket and he handed me the $20. And the guy that I was working with and his fiance in the back seat, they were floored. They had never seen anything like that before. And they thought it was, at first they were like, "Did you set this up? Is there something going on with the cab driver? Like, did you guys have a conversation?" I'm like, no. So we got out of the cab. I'm like, "Watch." And I just started walking up and down the street. And I was having people give me $20 left and right. And they tried to do it and they couldn't do it. And he's like, "What the hell?" He's like, "You make it look so easy." I said, "It is easy." I said, "But you have to see what's going on inside of yourself before you do this exercise. Because what this exercise does for you right quick is it reflects yourself back to yourself." I'm like, "Look how horrified these people looked at that you're walking up to." I'm like, "You're walking up to them. They think there's serial killers approaching them." I said, "Think about what's going on in your head when you do this." And for most people, it's shame, embarrassment. They think they're breaking the rules because you're not supposed to talk to strangers. You're not supposed to ask strangers for money. You're not supposed to ask for money without some kind of an exchange. Like, all this stuff's going on in their head. So I convinced them that we could do this. And I started doing this seminar. The seminar was 4 days long. It was $4,000 to come to the seminar. And I did this seminar where there was a woman, so some of you coaches may know who this person is. I coached her past her first million. So when she started coming to me, she was stuck. Her business was stuck and she couldn't seem to get out of her own way. So she's in the event, and I did not know her prior to this event at all. First day, we're in the event, and I'm telling everybody, what you want is already here. It doesn't matter how much it is, what you want is already here. And it's here now. Like, you can't know that you want something or need something without the thing that you want or need being within your sphere somewhere. The problem is that you don't know how to ask. So we didn't even get to the exercise yet. Very first part of the day, before we go on the first break, guy raises his hand and he stands up and he says, "You're telling me that the money that I need right now is here right now?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "How much do you need?" He said, "I need $20,000. He's like, "My business is going to go bankrupt. I need 20 grand. It's totally here." So he was very much in disbelief. He's like, so all this time the business is going down. You're telling me I didn't have to experience any of this because the money's here and I just don't know how to ask for it. I'm like, that's exactly correct. So he was looking at me like, you're full of shit. Like, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I'm like, if you just trust me with this, I'm going to show you something that will completely change your life in 4 days if you're willing to do what I ask you to do. So he sits down. Teach a little bit more. We finally take the first break. We come back from the first break and I start teaching again. I still have not gotten to the point where I'm telling them what the exercise is. And raising his hand, he's like waving it like this. And I'm like, what is it with this guy? Is this guy like a red flag client or what's up with him? So I'm like, what's going on? He says, "I don't believe it." And I said, "What?" He said, "Well, we went on break and I came back and there was a check on my chair for $10,000. I'm like, "There was what?" He says, "Yeah, a check on my chair for $10,000. So I'm like, "See, I told you it was here. I used it as a teaching moment. It was a great thing. I had nothing to do with it. And I didn't know the person that gave him the 10 grand. So we continue on. We go on another break. We come back. I start teaching, raising his hand again. And I'm starting to think, okay, what is the deal here? So I'm like, what is it? What's going on? He's like, "You ain't gonna believe this." He said, "We go to the second break, come back. There's another check on my chair for another $10,000. I'm like, "Get out of here. Bring those checks up here." And he showed me. I said, "Okay, everybody, let's just stop for a minute." I stopped the seminar. I said, "Who are the people that gave these checks?" And these two people stand up. I said, "Who gave the check first?" And this woman says, "I gave the check first." I said, "Would you tell everybody why you gave this check?" And she said, "Well, I heard his story," which he did. He told this long dramatic story. It was a sad story, right? He told this story. She said, "I felt so compelled in my heart that," she's like, "I have the money." She's like, "I'm rich. I have the money. It's no big deal for me to give somebody $10,000. And I thought, I could bless this guy's life. Why not do it?" So she gave the first 10,000. And the other woman, I said, and these were both females that did this, by the way. The other woman, I said, "Why did you give the 10,000? She said, "Because I had never experienced that kind of generosity before. And it just tore at my soul." And I thought, if that person could give 10,000, I could, to a total stranger, I could do the same thing. And I just followed that inner voice within and I did it. So it was a magical experience. I mean, it was like everybody in the seminar, they were just floored. I was floored. I had never experienced that in an event either up until that point. So we're continuing on with the teaching and it's going on day by day. First night, everybody comes out. The next day they come back. But traditionally what happens is like somebody's like, "I've got a quarter, I got a nickel, I got $1. It's not much manifesting. But what the big realization is they're realizing that the issue is that it's them, but they don't know what it is. And everything is going off inside people when you do this. Trust me, if you've never done this with me before and you do it, when you go out there to do it, your every one of your issues is going to start to come to the surface. So it's a fantastic mirror experience for somebody to find out what is it that is really, really behind your own block in life that's causing you not to be able to get what you want. So we continue on. And we get to the last day, and I still didn't know this time, but she comes up to the stage and she says to me, I feel like a complete failure. And I said, well, why? What's going on? She said, I haven't manifested anything. She said, you know something? When we first came in here and you said what the exercise was going to be, I thought to myself, I got that. I can do that. That's going to be a piece of cake. She's like, this is the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. And I don't understand why I'm not getting the money. And I said, well, you need to check who you're being when you do this. And I did some coaching with her. You know, it was like, I want this woman to be successful. So we continue on, come back after lunch. She still has not had an experience. And we continue on. We start to get towards the end of the day, like the last quarter of the day. And so I think we had 2 breaks left. She comes up to me at the first break and she says, this just isn't working for me. I'm not getting this. And I said, you have a choice to make. Are you going to walk out of here and have this be another experience of why you can't do something in your life? Or is this going to be an experience of you have a breakthrough and show yourself that you can? And she just turned around and walked away from me. We go to the last break. She still has not gotten the money. We come back from the last break and she stands up and she's just in tears. And she tells this story about how she's in the bathroom. She's in the women's bathroom. She's in a stall. She's sitting there just thinking to herself, what's the matter with me? Why can't I do this? She changes her energy. She changes her approach. And she starts thinking about how can I actually show up differently for someone. And she comes out of the stall and there's a woman at the sink and she walks up to her and she does it the way that I taught them. And the woman says, I only have 50 cents, but I'll give you my 50 cents. And she reaches in her purse and she pulls out a coin purse and she takes the 50 cents and she hands it. Only manifested 50 cents at that event. But that year she went on to go well over $1 million in her business and never went backwards again. It was a magical event. There were a lot of amazing people in that event. It was both an experience for the attendees and one for me. But here's the deal. Here's what the issue is. Most people approach asking of any kind with getting energy. There's fear in it. There's guilt in it. There's shame in it. These are the kind of people that'll go to somebody else's seminar and try to poach their clients. They're not really there to learn. They're there to see if they could sell their coaching services or whatever else they have to the people that are there. And all they end up doing is piss people off most of the time. It's fascinating because they're the same ones that are struggling in their business. And they do not understand that in anything that you're doing, in order to get, it's about adding value to someone's life. But here's the bigger thing. Here's the bigger problem. The bigger problem is that what do you believe in your mind you're exchanging for money? When I took everything away from seminar attendees when I do this, and we haven't done it since COVID, because even when I do this event in Mooresville at our office, we will hire a bus or two and take everybody into downtown Charlotte. And I will show them how to do this in a major city. We've done it in major cities all over the country. When we do this and you take everything away from people, they immediately go into, I have nothing to offer. I have nothing of value to give this person to get $20. And therein lies the rub. The rub is when we think and when we put our value on the thing that we're giving, instead of realizing that the real key to receiving is the value that we help somebody else realize in the transaction, not ours. And because most people suffer low self-esteem, one of the major core wounds is I'm not worthy. There's 2 major core wounds, not worthy and not lovable. And most people have a combination of those 2. But when you really believe that you're not worthy, you don't think that you can go up to somebody and add any kind of value outside of some kind of product or service and actually receive something in return. I'm not telling you to do this, but if you want to do this exercise, it will reflect back to you instantaneously what's going on inside of you as far as what you feel that you have to offer and what you're actually bringing to a conversation. I've watched people that can take a product or a service and they can ask for what they want, but they can't do it without a product or a service. They completely shut down inside. So what they're really saying is that my value is in the product or the service, not in the transaction. And they can't get somebody to on the other side to be a recipient of the value of that transaction. And here's how you do the exercise. First of all, you put yourself in grateful giving energy, right? Not fear, not worry. You got to remember all of the different things that we're taught growing up that will show up for a person. It's being rude. You're not supposed to talk to strangers. You're not supposed to ask people for money. You're not supposed to, I had one woman one time, for those of you, this is another interesting story. I was doing one in the front table, right down in front of my stage. She's sitting at this table. There's a woman sitting right next to her. Throughout this event, we almost had to kick this woman out of the event. This is when we created our no poaching situation, because the rule was you cannot sell your products or services at somebody else's event. Like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be here to learn. Other people are here to learn. She keeps putting her stuff out on the tables during the break, and we had to tell her to stop like 4 times. When we said what the exercise was, she wrote this huge article online. Don't go look for the article because it's still there. We don't want it coming back up again, but it is there. She lives in Australia, about how I was teaching people how to beg for money. So here's the fascinating thing. Sat right next to each other, had 2 totally different experiences, and becomes a multimillionaire. This woman goes home and she criticizes people for a living and doesn't make any money. What do you believe inside of yourself? See, when we get to the place where we totally shut down because of our own stuff, we'll even go as far as to make other people wrong so we don't have to do something. But if you walked up to somebody with great energy and you said, let me ask you a question, very politely, just walk up to any stranger. Let me ask you a question. What would it take for you to give me $20 and feel happy about the experience? And you said it with a smile on your face and you said it with good energy. You would be shocked at what people would say and give you. You'd actually be shocked. I could walk up and down the streets all day, and one after another, people would give me the money if they had it, without a problem. But if you approach them from, I'm afraid, I don't want to talk to strangers, this makes me feel shamed, this makes me feel embarrassed, all the different stuff that might be going on inside yourself, you have to realize people pick up on that energy, and they're like, this is probably a serial killer that's in front of me. I had a guy one time that was so bad, his energy was so bad. There was another exercise that we did for advanced mastermind students, and this was an exercise in giving. So they had to have money to begin with. So we'd have them take out like $3,000 and $100 bills, and their job was to give it away to strangers, to literally walk up and give it away. This guy's energy was so off, he couldn't get somebody to accept $100 on the strip in Vegas. People would run away from him. And it was so bad, my whole team went out and we observed what he was doing. But his energy was so off. These people were like unbelievably triggered when he would approach. And he wanted to give them $100. Most people could do it relatively easy, that part of it. It's the biggest part for most people is the parting with the $100, right? Like, really? You want me to give $3,000 away in $100 increments? Like, are you crazy? But once you start to have the experience, it'll change your life because you realize something. You realize something about giving and receiving. Most people don't give and receive. You know what they do? They trade. They trade. And when you trade, you're not influencing anybody. And people can see get energy a mile away. So check your energy, right? Everything that you want is already here. I would suggest that when you feel safe to go out and do this exercise, go out and do it. And if we do a seminar again, we'll let you know about it. When everything gets back to normal, we'll take you out and show you how to do it. But I guarantee you it will change your life. And you don't need to come to that seminar in order for this to do this. You can go out and do it right now for yourself. But if you do it and you stay persistent with it until you adjust your energy like you're tuning a piano, you will be shocked at the experience that you have with your fellow human beings. It's a beautiful experience when you get yourself right, okay? All right, so hope everybody is having a great day. I'm sharing this experience with you because Your big dream for the next year requires that not only you have to ask for it, you have to believe that it's here, and you want to make sure that you're changing yourself so that you can receive bigger, right? Receiving bigger is about understanding how to receive and not trade. We have to stop trading in business. When we stop trading, we start influencing, and when we start influencing, we create relationship with people.
Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind podcast. And if you like what you heard and you want to know more, go to davidnagel.com/free stuff.